Hey now. How is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries live with Tanya E. Hood. And because we're live, you see we are already running into some technical issues. But I'm glad that you all are here and I get the chance to join you for the very first YouTube live for Red Alert Diaries. We are going to have a great conversation, and I am looking to see how to make certain that I can see you all on the live discussion. So as we go through having a conversation, make certain that you share your information, see your chats. I'm loading it up so I can see all the beautiful people and your comments along the way. So with that, I'm hoping that you had the opportunity to see this morning's episode because today I was having a conversation about how do we support our babies through the process? We know that divorce is chaotic. It's chaotic for you, but it's also chaotic for them. And as we are walking through our emotional warfare, sometimes we don't pay enough attention to what our babies need. So when we are going through the storm, I gave a few ways that you can help your children effectively communicate while they go through the storm as well. There were four elements of communication. Communication can be vast. Communication has so much going on with it, but there's basically four. If you break it all down, you've got nonverbal, verbal, visual, and written. So with visual, that means your pictures, different text things, the videos, all of those various elements. Those things that we find as a way of communicating how we feel, what we express, and with our children all over their phones and all of the different pads and everything that they're working with, they have more visual elements that they're dealing with. So you may end up feeling their nonverbal moments. They don't want to talk half the time because it's not associated with what's on their phones or the iPad or what. You're not really speaking to them on their social media platform. You will not get heard. When we're going through those different ways, I want you to know you are still the loudest voice. At the end of the day, you being the parent still has a say so, but you've got to create an environment that supports them in that journey. One of the things that I did in the aftermath of my divorce was create family meetings. It sounds really simple, but if you have never done it, it's often difficult to start off in that environment. You don't know exactly how this is going to go, what are the ground rules. So here's something really simple. Even the 4-year-old, because at the time I got divorced, my children around 10 and 4, I made certain that the 4-year-old can voice his opinion as well. The family meeting, especially when you're coming off of the chaos of a relationship or divorce, you've got to create a space where you can check in on your babies. I used the family meetings, sort of check-in time. And in the beginning, there was a lot of non-verbal communication. Well, the 4-year-old was busy playing because he wasn't really sure what was going on. But the 10-year-old, oh, he had some stuff. At 10, he's not quite a preteen, but he's old enough to know something's going on and this has changed and I don't like it. They don't yet have enough of the ways of communicating effectively. So you have to create an environment where you can see their nonverbals. I had to watch my son and how he repositioned himself. He was one of those children that would always talk and share in different things, but in the aftermath of the divorce, he didn't want to have much of a conversation. Really wasn't sure what else to truly say. So I had to find a way to check in with his heart. And that was looking at his nonverbal communication that gave me the clues that I needed to support him on a journey. Your family meetings will give you the clues when you run into the nonverbal elements. But here's something else. The nonverbals also show up in behavior. So pay attention to their behavior. Some kids don't know how to fully express themselves. Now, the 4-year-old wasn't really mindful of all of the nuances that was happening, but he did know that his father, the sun, the moon, and the stars in his world wasn't always there. So his behavior showed up in temper tantrums. I was repeating processes of things that I'd already crossed. We had gone through the terrible twos. We weren't inside of a space where he couldn't express himself or share or talk, but he decided to sort of shut down and go into temper tantrum mode all over again. If they're at an age where they're not quite sure how to express themselves, you have to help them. Give them verbal statements to support them on the journey. So I had to learn how to change those nonverbal moments into verbal moments so that I can understand a little more about what was going on because I'm a little literal. I'm the natural, logical, analytical individual that really likes to see things in black and white. You have to express it to me the way you want to express it. Don't give me the little undertones. So I had to help my children give me the words back off of their emotions. You know how when they go to the doctors and they give you the face chart for little kids, and on a scale from 1 to 10, they have the face that's happy and sad. So I had something similar to the face chart, but I used what my children enjoyed. One, so it doesn't look like the same thing that the doctors did, because I didn't want to throw that in there. It's a whole other thing. My youngest one was into cars. Oh man, cars was his thing. Big cars, little cars. So I decided on a scale from the big car to the little car, how are you feeling? So I lined the cars up in order of height. And he can let me know. The big car's like, yeah, we having fun. We doing big things. To the little car, really, really small right now. And I'm not quite sure what to do. That way, he got the chance to play with his cars, which interrupted the pattern a little bit for the day. I got the chance to gauge where my child was on the scale without having to constantly talk about all of the little nuances about how you feel. Then I used the cards as playtime. I divided the time period with my kids in the aftermath of my divorce because with the 6 year gap between them, they have different emotional states of what they were walking through. So I had 30 minutes with the youngest, while the oldest one, he had his time. And so he enjoyed 30 minutes without talking to me, dealing with me, or whatever, because he was still going through his stuff. So it went sort of like this. First, I had to decompress because here's the thing. When you are walking through your storm, you do not want to put that on them. So when I got home from work, I had to decompress for the stuff that was at work. I had to reset my emotions for them, and I had to get me stable because I was still angry in the beginning that I had to do this by myself. I got married for a reason. I wasn't signing up to be a single mother. And then in America, being a single Black mother, raising sons by myself, that has a whole separate stigma that I did not want to be associated with. But there I was in my journey with my babies all over again, trying to figure it out, trying to get things going. And so I had to discover what's the best means. So I needed to decompress. I use an analog clock. It's a face clock for those of you that don't really use the thing. So I had a face clock so they can physically see the clock turn. When I let them know mommy's home at this time, when it gets here, that way the 4 year old was clear about the time. The 10 year already knew the time, but it gave them clarity. Mommy said, don't come to her unless something major happened till we get to the hand right here. That helped me decompress. So I had 30 minutes to myself. Then the next 30 minutes, after we had a quick family meeting, check in. Hey, how you doing? What's going on with you? What do you guys want? Sometimes I use the family meeting time to prepare dinner together, something that we could do because I also had to figure out how to include them into the cooking thing because it still needed to happen. That gave us an opportunity to talk, but if they needed to really sit face to face and talk, they knew, sit me down. Otherwise, it became talk around fixing the meal, talk around what you're doing. And I went back to the thing that my grandmother did. You see, I did not understand why my grandmother really wanted us to sit around the kitchen table when we got home from school. I thought it was just so she can check on our homework, but I learned in the aftermath of my divorce, the kitchen table was her family meeting moment. She never physically said it was family meeting. She didn't express it that way, but she was able to get clued into how we were dealing with what was going on in the world at the dining room table or the kitchen table. So I used the dining room table as my touch point. And I let them know in that time, it was like a 15-minute touch point. Hey, do we need to sit down to really talk, or can we fix dinner while we chit chat along what's happening with the day? Their response would let me know either nonverbal response or a verbal response, what I had to do. That clued me in. And if I felt like they were in a moment where it was too nonverbal, I did what I shared in this morning's episode. So if you listen to this morning's podcast, then you already know. Give your children the words they need. We have to empower our babies. Give them the things that they need to say because the nonverbal behavior for my oldest child came because he didn't know how to respond when everybody around him was asking him all these questions. Why your parents get a divorce? Do you know what's happening? Blah, 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 blah. It was not his responsibility to try to answer all those things. But if you don't prepare them, the world will do what they want with your children. So give them what they need. I had to prepare my son for this journey. So I gave him keywords that I recognize because everybody, most of the time, when they're trying to be nosy about what's going on, will ask your children because children will tell what's going on. So I used this thing that we did at church. Now, some of you know about my religious roller coaster ride. One of my religious moments was being Catholic and Lutheran. And in those two elements, we used the mispah. The mispah was a saying that we did after church when we left one another. It was the same saying that was given in the Bible for Jacob when he was leaving his father-in-law. And they met at a place. It was the Mizpah. And that space, they said, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Amen. Really simple. Simple enough that the 4-year-old already recognized elements of it. So going back and forth to church, this was familiar to them. And whenever they ask for their father, because you're children, they're going to want to ask for the other parent. And when they do, if you are not yet emotionally healed to deal with that, do not let your warfare be spewed onto your babies. I did not have enough emotional wherewithal to come up with something any better. But I did know that I did not want how I felt about the aftermath of my divorce to be their feeling. Let them figure out how to navigate their emotions with their father. Now, I'm still a landing pad to help them along the way, but they don't need to have my mess on top of the emotions that they are walking through because they are walking through an emotional storm. We don't often think about it. But some of the things that we show up, behaviors in school, changes in how they function, different elements, that is why family meetings were important. So I can check the nonverbal, give the verbal. And here's the next thing. The third communication element, the visual. Now, at the time, I wouldn't let my children play a whole lot on the internet, do a lot of social media, do a whole lot on their phones. So the visual I did with my oldest because he loved to draw. Later on, the youngest one liked to do it well, so it worked out good for me. I let it be drawing time. Draw out how you feel, draw what you think, draw about what you like, because it was things that they like to do. Instead of being in front of a television, letting the television feed them extra stuff, I had to find moments in my day to encompass my children's world. So I eliminated outside visuals and created inside visuals. Visuals about how they felt, visuals about what they wanted, visuals about what they were experiencing, and gave them new things to look forward to so that things can be different, so we can have different, so they can do different. Create what you need to walk them through the journey. And the fourth means of communication was written. So I wrote my children love letters. It wasn't something that I did a lot because when I was married, I was a disciplinarian. So when my children found out that they had to be with me full time, oh, that was another set of emotional warfare moments. But when I took the time during these moments to write things out for them, every day I would write one something. So before we had the meeting, I would do it either at night when they were in bed, and I write sticky notes. So you got those post-it notes. Do something amazing with the post-it notes. I wrote brilliant things for my babies. You are amazing. I love you because you're good at the written elements tied to the verbal elements gave them a way of changing their nonverbal moments so that the visualization that they had external matched what was internal. So I can cover all 4 communication elements for my babies. I walked through a little bit more of what I did in this morning's episode, but hopefully, as I share various elements in the Red Alert Diaries podcast to support you on your journey, you get the opportunity to maximize the use of these. So that is a quick touch point. Let me check in to see, are there any comments, questions, or thoughts about what I have shared? Because it's been a lot of information I've dumped on you. And on top of having the conversation today. So thank you so much for watching and let me join you on the journey. So listen to this morning's episode. It's called What Your Kids Say? No, What Your Child Say? Look at that. Leave your comments. I will respond. And let's extend the conversation there. And then make certain that you join me because this is new to YouTube. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I go live to have the extended discussion. So you guys have got to make certain because you have the visual on YouTube to look at it, comment about it, and then these conversations can be extensions of the episode. But if I see in your comments that we got to talk about a little bit different, look at a little more conversation points, maybe change up the conversation a little bit, we can do that. That's why I often share we can continue the conversation or we can start a new one. So, in the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood walking in my purpose, and I hope you do the same. Take care.